Hello!
Hello, and welcome back to the Legendary Resistance.
Today we're talking about books!
This is actually the first in our video series of DM Masterclass to discuss problems that DMs have as a whole.
Don't click away, I promise books can be interesting. They can be. I promise.
Alright, let's get into it. Has this ever happened to you? Your players go into an office or a library, whatever it is, they walk in and you, being the great DM you are thinking to yourself, what would my players see if they walk into an office area? Maybe a desk, maybe a couple tables, some chairs, maybe a bookshelf full of books. And you describe these to your players, and you know what the first thing they say is that you're not ready for?
I would like to take a book off the bookshelf. How many books are there? How many levels of books?
15 books.
All right, I pull down 6 of them and I look at the titles.
Book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, it is very easy for us to say, yes, there's a shelf of books. But the first thing your players are going to do is they're going to say, I look at the books. What are all the titles? What are in these books? I'm going to flip open these books. What information do I glean from these books? They want the books to have content, and you as the DM looking at the big picture of your campaign have not prepared it.
Are you telling me you don't know every single book on that bookshelf?
Nope. Worried about bigger things, bigger fish to fry. So,
what's something I could do to prevent this from happening to me?
yeah, so what do we do? There's a lot of different options. There are a lot of different ways that DMs have combated this in the past. And so we're going to talk today about some of the ones that we like to do. For instance, what I like to do at my table, and I have developed over a number of campaigns, after running into this same problem my first campaign and second campaign, what I've done is I have put out most of my libraries of my world behind closed doors, essentially.
Secret books.
So basically, all my libraries are these big university areas where all of the knowledge and all of the books are kept in vaults or in the library in the back, and you've got all these attendants that are in charge of making sure the books stay safe, the knowledge stays in good condition. So what you do as a player is you're going to go into this library, you're going to go to the front desk, the information desk, and you're going to say, I'm looking for information on this topic. And they're going to be like, awesome, we can help you with that. And you're going to pay a small fee, which goes to the maintenance of the library. And
The salaries of the workers.
they're going to help you with either 1, 2, or 3, however many you want to do in your world, how many topics you want to choose. And so you're going to go sit down at a desk, and they're going to bring you content. I'm not going to give any book titles or anything, because they bring you a number of different pieces of content.
Yes, on those topics.
On your specific topics. And then, because I, as a DM, love when my players roll dice, and my players love to roll dice, I will typically have them roll an intelligence check. This is how good you are at reading. This is how good you are at studying information and looking through all these sources of information for what you're looking for. And so, depending on their roll, maybe they roll a 9 or an 8. So I'm like, here's the basic information on the topic you're researching. Maybe they roll a 15 or a 16. So I say, here's the information on your topic, and here's a little more. Here's a little extra that you wouldn't have otherwise known. And as the DM, I can also decide, maybe I give them a little more information, push them in a direction. Who knows? And if they roll a 20 or higher, I'm like, okay, they have all this information on your topic. You glean this extra insight that most people wouldn't be able to. This also allows the more studious members of the party, so your artificer, your wizard, the ones that are really good at your intelligence checks, it allows them to feel like a wizard or an artificer.
These feel useful.
This is what I'm good at. I'm going to do some reading. I'm going to research this topic. I'm going to bring useful information to my party. And yeah, we've had a good time with it, and it allows players to research topics without going to a massive stock of bookshelves and say, all right, what are all the books?
True. It also, I've had a problem where I'm describing a library, and then they said, all right, we need to solve this by, we need information by this, and we have a time limit to get the information by, so let's spend the next 8 days in this library. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh no. You read every book in that library about that topic, but so
Yeah.
you can encounter problems like that. But with this system, they don't get to take the books home, right? Because knowledge is precious.
Yep, it's just there. They have to be there. They research, then they go.
Nice.
Now, this kind of solves the issue of we want to research these topics, and so we go to a library, and which I am a strong supporter of libraries in fantasy worlds. I think that they're fantastic. They can be beautiful. You can describe them as like the massive like spires of like walls of books and stuff. I think that that's a great fantasy motif. We just have to do it right.
Yes. Because you don't want it to turn into a long session of just reading books.
Yeah, and maybe your players like that, and that's all up to you.
That's true. That might happen.
But in most parties, we don't want to spend an entire session of all of our adult lives just like trying to roleplay the library. That being said, when they're out in the wild,
Yes, the wildly encountered a book.
they might encounter wild books. So books that are in like this old abandoned house, or we are infiltrating this bad guy place and we're looking for books. Besides like your typical scripted, you find the manifest of all of the illegal goods that these people are ushering in.
How to be a criminal.
Besides that,
Lessons 101.
there might be random books out there. And if you want and you like rolling on random book title pages or like whatever it is, maybe you have a book of tables like I do, that's great. I love rolling on those. Give them random books and it'll boost your creativity as a DM if you give them random books to decide what they do. So, for instance, last campaign, I rolled on a random table. They got a book called Swamp Beasts.
Nice. Basic.
And it's up to me as a DM, having rolled that and given that book to them, like, what's information in here? And so I would say, oh, this is kind of like an encyclopedia of different creatures you might find in a swampland. And so I basically like to give them time to read it, and like in their free time they can say, I read my book. And so I'll like tally how many times they've read it. When they hit a certain mark, I'll be like, you have now read this book completely.
Yes.
And maybe later on, I'll give them advantage on a roll regarding that book. So if they're in a swamp and they're like, oh my gosh, something destroyed these reeds, or something might be attacking us, something lurks off in the shadows, or we're hunting something, I'll give them advantage on checks because they read that book and they have that knowledge.
Nice.
Or maybe an auto success. If they read a plant ID book and for like a mountain plant ID book and they're in the mountains, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what that plant is, you know what that plant is, you know what that plant is.
And then you feel wonderful afterwards because you're like, I read the book.
Players like to have those little, it's not even that, I call it a buff or like a boon that they have, but it's not really.
A book boon.
It doesn't give them a whole lot of mechanically epic abilities, but it's fun for roleplay.
And it feels like you're in the actual world, immersed more and better.
Yeah, so when it comes to books, just kind of, I recommend having your libraries behind closed doors. It's worked out really well for us. We love it. Our players love it. It streamlines the access to information. But as for wild books, books that they just find throughout, maybe give them one or two, like roll for it. Even if there's like a shelf, just say, for the sake of the gameplay, we're going to roll for 2 random books for you, and
That pique your interest.
Yeah.
Something like that.
we'll then go from there and see what they might do later.
Yep. What I typically also, to add on, would be like, I really like designing the library based off of the town. So if they're in an old western town that's like run down and people shoot each other in the streets, kind of a style, maybe maybe the bookstore isn't like that well maintained. Like there's one book person that's a librarian. That's the word I'm looking for. A librarian that's
Book
there.
person.
But maybe in a town that's like the center of all knowledge of the universe, where like, I don't know, the main capital, the library is like a full expanse of knowledge, and then they get more information from there. So based off location, you can give more or less information.
And maybe they get specialized information in locations. So a town full of farmers and herbalists would have more information about healing herbs and cultivation and plants, whereas like a warlike military town is going to have more histories of battle and military tactics, things like that.
How to crush your enemies. 101.
Yeah, so have fun with books. Don't let them stress you out. If your players are like, I need all of these book titles, and you just don't have time to build all this into your world, you can also just say, for the sake of ease, I'm going to roll 2 random books, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's going to derail our campaign.
Yes.
You have the power and the authority to do that.
And you should, so it doesn't all become one character reading a book while everybody else wants to play.
Yeah, so...
Specialize it for your campaign. Choose whatever works best for you.
Yeah. Stick around for future DM Masterclass videos. Stay legendary.
Bye!